Every country on Earth is in debt. America's debt has exceeded $38 trillion. The European Union carries nearly $14 trillion in debt. Japan has about $9 trillion. Even oil-rich states or export giants have high debt figures. This immediately brings one question to mind. Since everyone is in debt, who exactly are we indebted to? The answer is actually much different. The modern world is a system built entirely on debt. Everything from wars to economic crises, from booms to busts, stands upon an invisible network of debt. And if you continue following this network, you realize that the world doesn't owe anyone in particular, it owes itself. Of course, it must be noted that every person is affected differently by this debt. Today, the world has a total debt exceeding $315 trillion. That's about 3 times the size of the global economy. If you ask how we arrived at this position, the story goes back centuries. In 1694, when England and France were at war and running out of money, England turned to merchants as a last resort. In exchange for interest to be paid from future taxes, the merchants provided financial support to the state. The Bank of England was established to manage this system. That moment marked the birth of what we know today as government bonds. Other countries soon followed. France tried its luck, the Netherlands refined it, and the US adopted it to finance its independence. Thus, borrowing became not a sign of weakness, but a symbol of power. States that previously conquered territory for gold began issuing bonds for interest. Today, debt is almost the world's biggest product. The US has $38 trillion in debt, and Japan has $9 trillion. Global borrowing increases by $1 trillion every 100 days. Countries are drowning in debt, banks are lending debt, and all of us, through taxes, savings, and pensions, are both debtors and creditors. But who is on the other end of the debt? Let's use the US as an example. Half of that $38 trillion is under the control of investors. The vast majority of these investors are American banks, funds, retirement accounts, and the Federal Reserve itself. The remaining $9 trillion belongs to foreigners. The largest parts are held by Japan and China. Therefore, saying the US is indebted to China is true. But it's only a tiny fraction of the total debt. Essentially, almost all of America's debt resides within America itself. The government issues bonds, funds buy them, and the Fed buys them back when needed. Injecting money into the financial system, American citizens pay their taxes. Those taxes go towards bond interest and return as retirement payments. Consequently, this system is actually a gigantic cycle. This cycle is not unique to the US. It works the same way all over the world. Japan lends to the US to Europe, Europe to developing countries, and they in turn use their foreign exchange reserves to lend back to the US and Europe. Everyone gives a promise to someone else, and these promises keep the grand system known as the global economy going. But there is another power within this game: the markets, hedge funds, pension funds, central banks. They determine who gets to borrow cheaply and who survives. Sometimes a country's destiny can change overnight. Central banks are the essential core of the system. In addition to managing debt, they manufacture new debt. They buy government bonds and in exchange, create new money. Every currency in circulation symbolizes a debt somewhere, and this system is based entirely on trust. As long as investors trust that governments will pay the interest, there is no problem. But if trust is lost, things become much more serious. In the Greek crisis, the debt became unpayable. Argentina defaulted repeatedly. Sri Lanka couldn't even find fuel. When the system breaks, the creditors appear: the IMF, the rating agencies, or the anonymous bondholders. But then the cycle starts over. New debts replace old ones, because in the modern world, state debt is not expected to be repaid. It is expected to be continuously rolled over. Governments have no plan to pay off their debt completely. If they did, the world economy would shatter. This is because government bonds are accepted as the most solid investment asset in the world. Banks use them as collateral. Funds invest in them, and central banks treat them as money. For this reason, debt is like the heart of the modern economy. It needs to beat regularly. When politicians say, "We will eliminate the debt," it sounds nice but is far from realistic. The goal is not to eliminate debt, but to keep it trustworthy, because if trust fails, the system collapses. The saying, "we owe the debt to ourselves," is also not entirely accurate. Yes, debt is shaped within society, but its returns generally go to the upper segments. Those who pay the interest are largely the workers and taxpayers. Thus, debt and inequality grow together. In conclusion, debt is not a battle between good and evil. It is two ends of the same rope. But if that rope ever snaps, the question, "Who is the creditor?" turns into an issue that encompasses everyone. The modern financial system has converted debt into cash. States issue it, banks increase it, investors trade it, and the lives of all of us are shaped accordingly. Debt used to mean bondage. Today it means balance. But if that balance is broken, we will remember what debt truly is, a promise that cannot be kept forever. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, like and subscribe. Have a good day.